graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
I did a Star Wars cartoon, so even I get hate from Star Wars fans when I'm like, look, dog, you're just mad the franchise isn't aging with you.
Right.
But that ain't how it works. The first one was for fucking kids.
Right.
The second 3 were for different fucking kids, and this one is for kids. You're just pissed off that Han Solo gave the fucking Millennium Falcon to a girl. That's it. Because Luke Skywalker's Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Okay, he can talk to things that don't speak English and understands what they're fucking saying. He gets a fairy godfather instead of a fairy godmother who teaches him how to be the best Jedi in the world in no time fucking flat. And everybody, like, I know more about the Force than most people because Dave Filoni taught me and George Lucas taught him. And all these video games have fucked people up on what the Force is. Like, Luke's skill doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses.
Right.
The Emperor doesn't dictate whether he wins or loses. The Force dictates who wins or loses based on balance. And here's the quick version on how to explain it to all these people who fucking think they get to decide. In the first if you want to do this like time-wise, Palpatine, you would say, and Yoda are the smartest two. Palpatine clearly smarter because Yoda was blind to the power of the dark side and the seduction of Anakin. So let's talk about the seduction of Anakin fucking Skywalker for a second. If the Emperor is the smartest dude in the universe and knows that the Force dictates this, if he life. Again, not my opinion, George Lucas's. So go fuck yourself if you disagree. You don't get to level up in the Star Wars world. That's a fucking video game. There's no such thing as a gray Jedi. Qui-Gon even says, I turn towards the light because it's there. There's no gray. That's pretend fan fiction shit, which is cool, but don't try to canonize it because it doesn't work. And I'm never gonna buy it. Ever. Star Wars is for fucking kids.
Your podcast will fail.
It's just a coincidence that you were talking about the Jack and Triumph show and I'm here. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, guy who makes all those unlistenable podcasts over at smodcast.com, and you're listening to the Two Strangers, One Podcast. This is podcasting.
You're listening to Two Strangers, One Podcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes or on the Stitcher app for Android devices. Please visit twostrangersonepodcast.net. Now, here's Chris Cologne and Paul Pasquillo.
Hello and welcome to Two Strangers, One Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Paul.
And literally less than 10 seconds before we started watching this episode, I decided to hype myself up by watching the very last Star Wars trailer. As we we're about halfway through October. Star Wars doesn't come out until pretty much around Christmas, so there's about a month and a half, 2 months actually, by the time they get a chance to actually release the movie. And as we were talking about right before the episode started, Star Wars has been known, Star Wars and Marvel, and I mean, I guess other people are guilty of it also, but I mean, obviously people pay attention to the Star Wars and Marvel trailers where there'll be things in a trailer that aren't necessarily in the movie, or there'll be scenes in the trailer that are sort of a different take from what's shown in the movie. So, we live in a world now with digital editing and stuff like that, so what we see today in the quote-unquote final trailer doesn't necessarily mean it's what we're going to see in the final movie. The one scene that really gets me kind of curious on and I don't want to, it's not a spoiler because it's in the trailer, but it's where,
it's out right now, so there's that.
Yeah, so you see Kylo Ren and Rey together swing their lightsabers and knock down a statue, a black statue, like like made out of like black stone or whatever. And you don't know is it a statue of the Emperor? Is it a statue of Darth Vader? I have a feeling it's the Emperor, but once again, I don't want to speculate because it's gonna be one of those things where like I'm getting all hyped up about it now, and then by the time the movie comes out, that's not in the fucking movie. I'm like, what happens to the guys when they beat up this? Because as I've already made the intro to this podcast, and it's a long intro, and if you made it through it, thank you for staying around that part. It is the Freddie Prinze rant. Where,
I'm sorry that Chris did that to you.
Well, I mean, I could have sat there and edited it, but like, instead of, a 2-minute intro, it would have been a 1.5-minute intro. So why go through all that work to save 30 seconds? It's a pretty funny rant by Freddie Prinze Jr., talking about Star Wars and how, he used to work on, the Clone Wars, and how, Dave Filoni, who was pretty much the showrunner for the Clone Wars, and Dave Filoni, as Dave Filoni sat at the hand of the master, he was the Padawan of George Lucas. Freddie, and not that Freddie Prinze is saying he's a Padawan, but he's saying like, I've spoken to Dave Filoni, and it's so weird that Freddie Prinze Jr., this pretty motherfucker from like, the late 90s and early 2000s, like, he was, I mean, okay, yes, he was doing goofy movies like Scooby-Doo and shit like that, but he was a good-looking guy. He's still banging. He's married to Sarah Michelle Gellar. He's getting pussy. But to see, an actually good-looking, attractive guy speak passionately about Star Wars, I'm like, motherfucker, that's our thing. That's for the fat, ugly guys. It's not for the, for the thin, attractive, handsome Hollywood guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm happy he's there, and I'm glad he's there, fighting for the cause. But, it's like, as a nerd and as a fucking ugly fucking bastard, I'm like, no, that's for us. It's not for you.
Freddie Prinze Jr. is probably loaded with money from all the acting that he did before, but then he's written for WWE. Mm-hmm. He's been a voice actor too, which he's actually a pretty good voice actor, might I say. Mm-hmm. So it's like, this man is like, has done a lot. So he can have his opinion, but
yeah. And I guess, honestly, I guess technically on camera work, as horrible as Hollywood is, he's a little past his prime. I mean, not to kick him, because the guy's obviously he's a handsome guy, but I'm just saying is the way Hollywood works. He's not the new kid on the block.
Chris wants to secretly bang Freddie Prinze Jr.
Well, no, I'm just saying is that I'm jealous of him. But I'm just saying is like he's not on the top of anybody's list to star in a movie, right? He may have a comeback in 10 years or something like that. But I don't know if you know this or whatever. I mean, I'm pretty sure remember it's Freddie Prinze Jr. Even his dad was famous. The original Freddie Prinze was on a show back in the day, even when I was a little kid, called Chico and the Man, right. Which was about and the funny thing is. Like Freddie Prinze Jr. is like he's part Puerto Rican, and that was the joke of the show. Is Chico was Chico and the Man. It was a Puerto Rican, and it was sort of a joke where they were goofing on Puerto Ricans, but it was with the Puerto Rican on the show, living in a world where with white people and shit like that. So and he's Puerto Rican too. He's part Puerto Rican. That son of a bitch.
that reminds
Stop stealing my things, fucking Freddie Prinze Jr.
That reminds me of a joke that I used to make where like it would be hilarious for them to kind of make a show called The Atheist and the Mormon, just to see like how stupid they could make it. And I could see like something like that, like Freddie Prinze Jr. being something like that, where it's just like something out there. But remember, this guy's a really good writer because he wrote some of the scripts for WWE during the Attitude Era. So I mean, you gotta give this guy some props. I mean, you gotta think about it. Like, if you're a wrestler and you're going
handsome, he has a good job, he has fucking money, he's banging Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Keep going back to banging.
I'm just saying, so what the fuck, whose soul do I have to sell my fucking soul to the devil? If you're listening, come hit me up.
I'm sure they're both doing things behind the scenes that we don't even know about, like directing and producing shit too. So who knows? But honestly, like anybody that's been involved probably knows where they're going with this, with the final Star Wars. Well, final in quotes of this trilogy,
the Skywalker saga. Then they're gonna have a million other. They're planning. They'll probably do a series like Knights of the Old Republic or their version of Knights of the Old Republic. And, there's The Mandalorian, which, we'll talk about later. Mandalorian coming to Disney Plus, so we'll talk about all the wonderful items that are
don't
coming
you
out with
worry,
Disney
I got
Plus
some things to say about Disney Plus, trust me.
from day one. But it's funny, like, I'm watching the trailer for that, and of course it looks fucking awesome, but it's like, he's a Mandalorian, and he traps people in carbonite, and, he has the booster pack on his back, and he has a grappling hook. I'm like, just fucking, I obviously, they're not saying it's Boba Fett, and I don't think it is Boba Fett, but it's like, it's all these things that Boba Fett is known for and famous for, but it's, they can't say it's, I think like 3-4 years down the line or whatever, like by the time they get to like season 4 or 5, if viewership starts dropping, like if, the quality starts going down, I think, their big twist, they're gonna say, look, it's been Boba Fett all along. They'll bring in all the new fans. But that's just me speculating and being a fanboy. All right. So this episode, as much as I've been being jealous of Freddie Prinze, my little corner of the world are there's no Oscar letter this week, surprisingly enough. I'm surprised he hasn't chimed in on all my posts from New York Comic Con, especially with my new look, because it's something I was sort of playing with the new look for a while. And, long-term listeners of the show and people who follow us on social media, there was a time for years where I grew my goatee. I grew my goatee out for like 2 years. And that was around the time where, we were recording together live. And I think like that first Comic-Con, I had my beard long, and it sort of got me into, record with Jack and Triumph or whatever. I guess I sort of like kept the goatee. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep this stupid long goatee because, it gets people's attention and stuff like that. Well, this year, I decided to grow out my handlebar mustache. So that was like, I kind of previewed it. I don't say preview, like people give a shit about what's going on in my life. But I said, let me start sporting the handlebar mustache. I reached out to Jody Schaefer because he's been known to have a mustache, the handlebar style. And I'm like, what products do you use and stuff like that? And so he recommended this product or whatever. And of course, I don't know why I even bothered asking him, because then I just go out and buy the local shit by us. I use this stuff. It's called Honest Amish. He had, what was the one he recommended was called Fisticuffs. It's sort of like, these old school 1940s men's phrases and shit like that. So, I had my buddy, Salam, my Iraqi buddy, he trimmed me up last year before I went to Comic-Con to make my beard come to like a point, and then I'm like, okay, so I got the beard coming to the point, I got the handlebar mustache, I got my Sultan look going on. So, and it turned out to be I got a lot of comments, when you do a look like that, and not many people, like, and I'm not trying to be a fucking hipster or anything like that. I'm not trying to be a fucking millennial or anything like that. I just, out of the blue, I said, you know what, let me change up my look. Let me do something a little out of the ordinary that gets people's attention. And so I started, I said, let me see if I can grow out my mustache to do the handlebar look. The one thing that sucks when you don't have your mustache in the handlebar, like when I'm at home minding my own business, like your mustache kind of goes down over your mouth.
You mind your own business? Oh my god.
You look like when I'm at home and I'm not bothering anybody. I guess I can still bother people from the internet, but for the most part, when I'm not, looking for attention, and it sucks because sometimes like you'll be eating a sandwich or something like that, and you open your mouth to put like a sandwich in your mouth or whatever, and then like the hair from your mustache is in with like the bite, so you have to bite a little bit different or push your mouth, like when you're at home and I don't put handlebar mustache. I don't put wax on my mustache when I'm home, and I'm not planning to go out if I'm just working from home. So, it does, not that it sucks, but it's just like, it's this extra step, and then when you go out and, I've had people say, people have gotten used to it now where I've had people say, hey, what happened to the mustache? I'm like, it's still here. It's just, if it's not like a formal event, I'm not going to put it up. But, had one girl call it glorious. I had one very New Yorker guy tell me, I fucks with it, which is like not a new term, but that's been a while, where if someone says I fucks with it, that means they like it. It's cool. That's, as the kids say, I fucks with it. So I had a guy tell me I fucks with it. He goes, your mustache, man, I fucks with it. And I was like, all right, thanks. I'm hip enough to know I'm hip and cool enough to know what that means. I had a couple compliments, and then I had this weird story, which I have later on in my notes. But so I'm leaving Jacob Javits Center, and I spent so much money on Uber this year, only because I'm older. I guess I am heavier. Yes, I have to lose weight. and I'm like, fuck it, I'm not taking the subway. I'm taking Uber Pool everywhere. So that Friday night, I take the Uber Pool, and and it picks us up right at Jacob Javits Center. And, cause usually I would go like a block down, but by that time, one of the nights I stayed late and I saw this movie, it was the Screen Junkies. They had produced a movie called Never Give Up, Never Surrender. And it was about the 20-year anniversary of Galaxy Quest. And it's a really good documentary. Like, if you like Galaxy Quest, go see Never Give Up, Never Surrender. It is a really good documentary. They bring back everybody for the movie. It's funny how, even back then, the guy who plays Dwight on The Office, when he did that Galaxy Quest, he was a nobody, and then but he has a part in it. They have Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver. They bring back, obviously they don't have Alan Rickman because passed, but, they talk about it. And as when it gets to the Alan Rickman stuff, it hurts your heart and stuff like that. And it's a deep dive. They talk about how the original version was nowhere near, the original version was going to be more like a Spaceballs, goofy comedy, but then they decided to make it a little serious, but still, pay tribute to the fans. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, but, if you like Galaxy Quest, and you have an opportunity, because I think it's going to be a Fathoms event where you could watch it, you could screen it in theater soon. I highly fucking recommend it. It is a really good documentary. So that particular night at Comic-Con, we were leaving late, so most of the crowds were gone by the time this particular room let out. So I hop in an Uber Pool, and there's a girl in the back seat or whatever, cute girl, probably mid-20s. And she's like, how's Comic-Con? And, I usually go, but this year I'm working. I'm on my way to work right now. And I'm like, oh, okay. And we're chatting. And she goes, and I'm like, oh, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do? And she goes, oh, I play Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. For those, when people go to see Rocky Horror, there's a crew of people who actually perform the movie while the movie's playing on screen. And it's for the audience and stuff like that. And so she goes, do you want to come? And I was like, shit, yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, like coming out of Comic-Con with my goofy mustache, it sort of shows you the kind of mentality where it kind of people oh, you're one of us. Cause she mentioned it later. She goes, a guy with that mustache has got to be, cool enough to like Rocky Horror and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, thanks a lot. And we were talking about things because that, the troupe evolves over the years, but I remember in the mid-90s, I was going to go see Rocky Horror, and people that were once part of that troupe, have left since then. It's been 20-something years. But, and it was real interesting. And then even the theater we went to, I used to know the manager of that theater, so, cause they moved it to, 23rd and 8th. So, I
have no idea what that is, but continue.
I'm just saying, it was a theater on 27th and 8th, and I don't think it's a Regal. It's some weird, funky, not Cinemerica. It's some fucking, some weird company fucking bought it. It's not one of the big ones. It's not like a Regal or a Cinemark or anything like that. So,
well, the rules in the city are probably a lot different than out here, where they probably have you have to be at least a mile or two apart to have a movie theater. So, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, and that's not in New York City, because there's, New York City, there's probably a theater every 9 blocks. I would say about every mile, half a mile, excuse me, because a mile is about 20 blocks. And as I know, there's a theater on 12th Street, there's a theater on 23rd Street, there's a theater on 32nd Street, there's a theater on 42nd Street for Times Square. So, I'm pretty sure New York City, the rules are a little different. But
I think there's 2 or 3 Regals out there. There's a couple AMCs, I think, too.
Yeah, but the one on 23rd and 8th, it was no company I've ever heard of. And I think at one point it might have been a Regal, but not anymore. So now remember, these people that they do Rocky Horror, they have props and stuff they have to bring out. So there's even they have a storage space there's an offshoot of the theater. They bring out lights and all this other shit. So, got to see Rocky, and it's funny, it's after a whole long day of being at Comic-Con on my feet, running around all day, and this girl's like, hey, you want to hang out for a couple more hours and be, I'm like, fuck it. And, so what I did was, since I had my camera with me, I took pictures of their show, sort of okay, you're gonna let me in for free, but let me, try to take, and it's kind of course, taking a picture in a dark room I couldn't use my flash because I don't want to disturb the people watching the movie, and, in the dark, while people are moving, it's not exactly the best environment, but I took some pretty good pictures, and I emailed them to the girl, because even after the show, they went to the bar. She's like, "You want to go to the bar?" And the whole thing is at first I was like, "Oh, this girl likes me. She's cute or whatever." But I think she might have been, people who do Rocky Horror and stuff like that, there's a large, gay component to it. So I think she was just being very friendly. But it was nice to be invited out, you know what I'm saying? Like, just getting in a cab, like, hey, you want to go see this? Sure. Hey, you want to go to the bar? Sure. Like, oh, I think, but of course my mentality is like, oh, she doesn't want to, she must be a lesbian if she doesn't take my number.
Did she take your number?
I mean, she got my email address because I sent her the pictures and stuff like that.
Have you been talking to her?
Well, she hasn't gotten back to me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, once again, it was a friendly interaction and stuff like that, but I didn't get a thank you, and I'm a little upset about that, but, c'est la vie. I won't get deep into that, but I mean, the first part of the night was pretty fun, pretty cool. Okay, so 2019, yet another banner year. Met up this year, of course, with Matt, my usual photographer, and then we had a new member of the team. Varun. What's his Twitter handle?
Vlord GTZ.
Vlord GTZ, and he's the younger guy, and I know I'm the elder statesman, I'm the old fart, because as wonderful as New York Comic Con is, they have a lot of events outside of the Jacob Javits Center. And, it's taxing enough getting there and doing all the stuff to do at Jacob Javits Center without having to walk 20 blocks to go to the Madison Square Garden.
I'm making Chris go again next month, so there you go.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, it's like, so there were things, he was able to get coverage, because, within, I mean, yes, okay, 10 blocks is kind of walking distance. Like I said, it's half a mile, but when you've been on your feet all day at Comic-Con, you don't want to walk, and then mind you, it's 10 blocks there, and then 10 blocks back, when all is said and done, when you're done doing
Shit, I would love that. That'd be burning so many fucking calories. I'd be in my, it depends on how, what I was doing that day, too, because that con is so fucking busy, it's like...
And it's crowded, and you got and you have your camera equipment, and the tripod, and, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have a fucking blast, but I mean, I'm sort of like, I've kind of unofficially told Paul, anything that's in Javits Center, I'll cover, but I'm not going to go to the Hammerstein Ballroom. I'm not going to go to Madison Square Garden. They call it the Hulu Theater. There's a theater connected to Madison Square Garden. Back in the day, it used to be called the Paramount Theater. Now I guess officially it's the Hulu Theater. So and they had a lot of cool, Hulu had a lot of cool fucking shit going on this year, but it's at the Hulu Theater. I'm like, I don't want to fucking have to walk 10 blocks to get there, do whatever coverage, and then walk 10 blocks or spend money for a fucking cab to go to the fucking Hulu Theater. And I mean, it's a good problem to have or whatever. Like, I'm glad that it's such a big entity that they can have events outside of Jacob Javits, but it's also like, Jesus Christ.
Now you feel like I do. See, like that's the thing that I was saying. Like, I liked going one year, and like I'll probably do it every once in a while. Mm-hmm. But the problem is like New York Comic Con is just like, if it was just in the Jacob Javits Center, Javits, I'm sorry, Javits. Yeah.
Javits.
So if it was there, all and nothing else, great. Like Anime NYC, which you're going to be going to, like that's just going to be there. Great. Wonderful. Don't have to worry about anything else. But for them to have like an event here and here and here, and luckily wherever they had Anime Fest this year I think it was closer, wasn't it?
It was closer, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I heard not so great things, but that's secondhand knowledge, because
yeah.
And my days, I mean, I was trying my best, and we got a lot of good interviews, and we're releasing them slowly and stuff like that, but, you stay busy, and then, like, and once again, I don't want to fucking leave the Javits. It's sort of, you're already on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my same mentality is I don't want to, I really liked having everything in I like when a con has everything in one place. Like, but, and this isn't, and I know you hate when I say this, but this isn't Atlanta. This isn't where you can go through hotels and get to a subway.
It's like the hamster trail.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, and then it's very easy, so you're not walking as much.
Yeah.
Whereas New York City, you get off of subway, you're still walking, maybe a half a block to the center there. And then, if you're going to go somewhere else, you have to take a fucking Uber that because you don't want to fucking walk all that way most of the time. And it's like, you end up spending more money than what you even intended on. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's a lot better.
And the pool, like even the Uber pool, like last year it was relatively inexpensive. And even this year it was like not double, but damn near double what it was last year. And the whole thing, Uber does that thing where like if it's high traffic in the area, they they jack up the price, and they do it
Well,
on
they
purpose.
shut down the train too, right?
Yeah, the 7 train. Yeah, I did a little research, and from what I understand, the 7 train will never ever work on the weekends. It's just something that the MTA does, and it's so fucked up. Thursday and Friday, if you wanted to, the train takes you right there, right across the street, and then on the weekends, it's just fuck you. It's never ever ever going to work as of right now. And you would think literally tens of thousands of people are coming to this one area. You would think, they open a train to facilitate that. But, I guess since things are close enough around where they still get, it's funny, like we're all like beating fucking horses. Like, we've accepted the fact that it's just not going to work. So they're never gonna give us the 7 train, which is,
and that's, and again, like, I'm not trying to hate on New York City, but it's like Atlanta, it never stops. New York City, they're like, no, fuck you, we're rich, we don't want these trains running. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, do you know how much they would be making if they had those trains open? Like, they'd be making a shitload of fucking money. And this is just New York Comic Con that they're doing it at. Like, for that event alone, it should be open, even if you're not opening it every single weekend. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And that was one of my frustrations, too, the year that I went, because it's just like, how in the fuck are you supposed to get from where you live to there? But then, the train will take you this far, and then you get on the bus, and that's free. Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't get it. I'm like, I don't understand. I just don't. I don't. No.
Which is why I was just paying for Uber, because and once again, look, this is the one thing I do out of the year. This is my version of vacation and stuff like that, and it's like, for the fucking, let's just say it's cost $19 one way. But you know what it is, that $19? It's not fucking having to get on the subway, not having to deal with the crowds, or you still have to deal with the traffic, but, it's sort of, almost door to door. And you're like, what is my time worth? What is my, what is the headache worth? It's like, when you're sitting on a subway, if you said, look, I'll give you another $10, just fucking get me there now.
I sometimes wish that, like, Rochester was kind of like that. Like, not Rochester, like NYC was kind of like Rochester, where it was very easy to just take like a train or something. Not a train, but like take your car and that down there, and then you wouldn't even have to worry about shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's big money.
I just wish that they would just figure that out, because it just doesn't make any sense to me, honestly. And not everybody can get a hotel that's like a mile away.
Yeah. So. And the hotels that are a mile away are fucking $400 a night.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So.
All right, so let's get to the nerdy stuff. So once again, Varun was there with his brother. So Varun, being the younger guy with all the energy, who hasn't been defeated by life yet, he had the energy to go to all these crazy panels that were outside of.
And my loyal subject, you forgot that part.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, and from what I understand, he had a blast, but I'm just turning to an old cynical bastard. So he was able to handle a lot of stuff outside of the usual. And then the funny thing is, like, I think the very first panel that we all met up at was at the Chris Sabat, Sean Schimmel panel. And it's funny because it wasn't an official Funimation thing. It wasn't an official Dragon Ball Z. It's just sort of like, hey, we're fucking so famous that we could have our own fucking panel. Because it wasn't, yes, there were people there from Funimation, there were people there from DBZ, and there was sort of like their monitoring, but it was just like, hey, we're just going to sit and talk to the fan, and which, was pretty awesome on their part. They didn't have to fucking do it.
No.
Of course, it's good for the product, but it was fun. Those guys are always, when a time comes for them to turn it on, they turn it on. And, that's the reason they've been doing the job for the past, 20 plus years, doing it. And once again, obviously the big joke here is I'm not the biggest anime fan, but like, I know them. I've met them so many times, and seeing them on stage, it's even not being an anime fan or being like the slightest fan that I am, I still fucking enjoyed myself. It's entertaining to watch those two, come up on stage. Now, so, fandom being fandom, so, being the way it is. Okay. So they brought this one girl up on stage, and, without being too judgmental or anything like that, the girl was a little slow. Let's just put it like that. And, and that happens every fandom, and so The girl was talking, and then like she had mentioned, "Oh yeah, I just came from DerpyCon," which I had never heard of, but it's called DerpyCon. And she goes, and Vic Mignogna was there, and like she couldn't even say his name. She was like Vic Mignogna, whatever. And the fucking room gave like an audible gasp because you know, obviously with, I mean, there was Funimation people and stuff like that. No one was really going to discuss it or whatever. You know, they're not going to put themselves out there and talk it. And this girl, she wasn't trolling. She wasn't trying to be rude, but, you know, she was happy to see another person was a part of the show. But, you know, for pretty much everyone else in the room who understands that this is a very sensitive subject, the fucking room went like, to hear like, you know, 200 people go, you know, but then the funny thing is she was telling her story and it almost looked like she was about to ask about him. Nothing about controversy, she was just talking about him. But then like she kept talking and luckily for the sake of everybody in the room, she kind of changed the subject on her own without them having to, you know, do some verbal gymnastics and get the hell out of that way. But it was funny to, you know, to hear 200-300 people go, well, that was pretty fucking funny that she mentioned Vic Mignogna.
Yeah, that situation is over with, thank God.
Yeah, you know, so, you know, the usual upstairs in the press area. I think the year you went, you know, they've moved the press area, and once again, it's funny, like, where I'm talking shit, but understand, I'm having the time of my life here, but they pushed the press area to, like, this tiny fucking area with maybe, like, 20 tables, and, like, without enough chairs at the table, like, that would be one of my complaints this year with the press area, was that, like, there wasn't enough chairs. I think every single time I went to the press area, I literally just sat on the floor because there wasn't enough chairs for everybody. They really pushed, they, like, if you remember the whole upstairs area, 25% of that was dedicated to press, and the other 75% was dedicated to cosplayers. And like they were literally setting up like seating areas and you know, places where people can give like panels about cosplay. And don't be wrong, and it's fun and it's cool, and cosplay is a large part of Comic-Con. But you know, you're just trying to get to the press area. But there's people trying to take a picture of, you know, Wolverine, and people trying to take a picture of fucking, you know, and Boba Fett and all this. And so like, I mean, it was cool, but it's also like when you're in a hurry, or when you're just like, you get the fuck out of my way. Saying like, you know, move Thor Lebowski. I gotta get to the fucking press area. And so, they kind of compressed the press area yet again this year. Like every year, the press area gets smaller and smaller.
Gets smaller and smaller. Yep.
But you know, ran into the real life Peter Griffin, and so that was kind of cool. I was able to walk a little bit of the floor this year. You know, I've never to this day have had a chance to walk the whole floor. But the little bit I walked, you know, past the Hasbro booth where they had, you know, that $600 Unicron from the 1986 movie. That it was they started a Kickstarter for it, but they had kind of really outrageous expectations. They were looking to sell these $600 Unicrons, but their goal was to sell 5,000 of them. You know, 5,000. I mean, and don't be wrong, I love Transformers, and I think there's plenty of Transformers fans throughout the country, but you were expecting 5,000 people to spend $600, you know, for, and don't be wrong, it's gorgeous and it's huge and it's like a masterpiece kind of thing that, you know, you would put in your house and put in a display and shit like that. But, you know, dude, 5,000 people don't have that kind of money just kicking around for this exquisite fucking thing, you know?
If one person buys it for that price, they think they can sell it. And I'll be honest with you, they probably at least sold half of them.
Oh, yeah, no. And the whole thing is, from what I understand, I think and once again, I'm using 5,000 as an example. I don't know the exact number, but it was a high number like that. They got close to their goal because, I follow this guy. His name is Flint Dill, and if you're a fan of the original cartoon, like he he damn near wrote every episode of Transformers. Or he was involved with the original, like the first 2 seasons of Transformers. His name is damn near on every single episode. If he didn't write the episode by himself, he wrote an episode with somebody else. And this is a guy who hung out with Paul Dini back in the day. You know, Paul Dini, who went on to do Batman the animated series.
Yep.
There's like one other person that, you know, I think he hung up with guys who did like, you know, He-Man and shit like that, you know. And it's funny to, you know, them, you know, he's talking about these guys, he's talking about Paul Dini, like Paul Dini's his homeboy. And, you know, these guys, you know, Transformers and Batman animated series are 2 of the biggest fucking cartoons from the 80s and 90s, you know. So Flint Dill was talking about, like, he was, I guess there was a not that he was going to get a chunk of change, but had the Unicron I don't think it was officially funded, but had the project had been funded, Hasbro was going to grab him and say, look, since you helped write the movie and you helped write the first 2 seasons of Transformers, to help push the Unicron, we're going to hire you and you're going to give input into how we market it and shit like that. So I don't think they hit their goal, but they got damn near close. But I mean, that was kind of a lofty goal, man. I was saying, like, they were fucking shooting for the fucking moon on that one. Okay, I think our next panel was the Big Mouth season 3 panel. Netflix were really good to us this year. But it was a weird panel because it was like a press conference style where all the actors sat at one table and like the rest of us kind of just stood around the room asking them questions.
Yeah, that's what we call a press panel.
Yeah, and so I mean, I'm so used to doing round tables and just one-on-one interviews and stuff like that the press panels, I don't particularly like them, but I mean,
no, I don't either.
It was kind of interesting. Now, one thing I got to say is, and it was, Nick Kroll. There's another one, not Jenny Slate. It's another woman who does voices. Nick Kroll, Jason Mantzoukas, and it was Nick Kroll, Jason Mantzoukas, and this other girl who does voices. Andrew Goldberg wasn't. I think he was there this year, but he was at the big panel because they had a big panel in the main room. But it's funny how like last year the Big Mouth panel was like in this little fucking shitty side room. Like big panel, like I mean Big Mouth was big, but it wasn't at the level that it is today. So it's funny how like last year it was a room anybody could just walk in and shit like that, and this year it's fucking they had the main stage for a thing. And then on the main stage, later on that night, they previewed an episode from season 3. Obviously since Comic-Con ended, because they were literally dropping season 3 that night. Like we were watching it Thursday and then Friday at midnight, Friday at 3:00 in the morning, season 3 started. So since then I've watched it. For anyone who's seen season 3, it's the episode where they go to Florida and it's pretty funny, talking about like, how Florida's just all rednecks and low lives and shit like that. So that was pretty cool. So, okay, at the press panel, it was funny because it was almost like a joke where there was a person from Netflix that was sort of pointing the people out on who can ask the question and stuff like that. And, they're a press person and, press people kind of always have a stick up their ass. That's their job. So this poor girl at our table just kept getting overlooked. Like they just would not pick on her. And it's not like she didn't look, she had an attitude, didn't look like she was going to ask like a stupid question or anything like that. But she just wasn't aggressive enough. Press people were hungry. We're a little fucking, we're a bunch of sharks in a tank. We're going to fucking take what we can. And she's sitting there. And then one thing I do have to say, Jason Mantzoukas, do you know that actor? Like he's on a lot of fucking shows. He's on The Good Place. He's on, he's the one, I know it's going to sound weird. He looks like Osama bin Laden. He's kind of dark. I'm just saying he's dark skinned. He grows his beard out. But he kind of hangs out with Nick Kroll and stuff like that. He runs with that crew. But I mean, I say that, let me just phrase it with this, is that he was the one nice enough where like towards the end of the interview, towards the end of the panel, like he stopped everybody. He goes, this girl's been raising her hand for every time it was time to ask a question. This girl's been raising her hand and they've never seemed to pick on her. And he goes, I'm going to stop here right now because I want to know what kind of question she has. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he made a joke about it and stuff like that, but he was cool enough and he was paying attention enough to the press because it almost became like a joke how this girl kept getting passed over, and he was like, I want to know what she has to say, whatever. So I mean, that was much props to him because he didn't have to fucking do that, and he was paying attention enough to the room. So I like he gets extra cool points in my book, Jason Mantzoukas. Then at the Big Mouth in the presentation in the big room, they did not want, like, they had fucking security walking up and down, like you couldn't have your cell phone out when they were showing the Florida episode, like the fucking Jacob Javits security, which is a bunch of old people walking around. Put your phone away. Put your phone away. So there was that, and then they started giving out at each chair for the foam fingers. Like people they have. It was the Shocker, or 2 in the pink, 1 in the stink. It was the Shocker foam hand for season 3, and of course 3 fingers for the Shocker, which also 2 fingers as 2 strangers and the 1 podcast. So
of course.
So they had those. So like, of course, there were some empty seats around me. So I stole like, I have like 4 or 5 of them, which I'll probably be selling soon on eBay. Okay. And then, one announcement they did make is that even though they're doing season 3, they've been renewed up to season 6 for Netflix. And then what they're going to do is on the last season, for the fans of the show, there's the hormone monster and the shame wizard and the depression kitty, and for all those like, not imaginary characters, but for all those like characters that are obviously like in the ether or whatever, the last season, or the season 6, is going to be a whole new season called Human Resources. So if you've watched the show and there's the kids go into the world of the hormone monsters and stuff like that, they're doing a whole season in that world, and it's called Human Resources. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Let me see. There was Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about like elements in pop culture, like adamantium and what does Black Panther have? Vibranium and all this other shit. So it was just a whole, Neil deGrasse Tyson has his podcast called Star Talk. Okay. So then Thursday night there was the Titmouse party, which once again I reached out to Jody Shaver. I was like, please, I want to go to the party so bad or whatever. And then like he emailed a couple people. I was able to get my ass in the door, and that's because they have Titmouse Studios in New York City, and so I was able to at the gate, and I go, no, I'm here to see so and so and such, and okay, come on in. And but it's funny how like last year, like the party went late. Like the last year the party went to like 1-2 o'clock in the morning. This year I think because the funny thing is that it's a party in an artist studio, but it's also in an office building. You know what I'm saying? So when they had the party, it's like music playing, and it's literally a party. Chris Bernowski, and he had a fucking bullhorn. He's like, all right, everybody, we're gonna party till 10 o'clock, and then we're gonna take it down to Rock to like an actual bar. He was like, I guess after not that last year was like a crazy party, but I guess sort of just to avoid a lot of headache, they moved the party like 3 blocks down to a bar, and the bar was cool, stuff like that. It wasn't really my scene, because like since it was like a hip New York bar, like they played like a lot of like music I'm not into and shit like that. But because that was another thing, is that it was nice and it was cool, but like last year at the party I was able to talk to people. This was like a bar with music blasting, so like unless you're literally standing elbow to elbow to person, you really can't fucking hear what the fuck anybody's saying. So like I enjoyed myself, but I kind of preferred last year when they had the party still in the. But then again, you got people walking around with fucking alcohol, and they also have fucking $5,000 tablets that people animate on. So to keep people from, I guess, spilling their drinks on the tablets and stuff like that. But once again, still a fucking blast. Met a couple of cool people who work for Titmouse. Then I went, this all sort of bleeds together. I went to, there was a booth for a thing called Legion M, which is, it's a community where they do, fan related movies, and they basically, they get people to, like, when you join Legion M, obviously you throw a couple bucks in, and they sort of kickstart their own movies. And as an example of like stuff that they're doing, they did a movie, they're doing a movie about how H.R. Giger, the artist who created like Alien, and they're sort of doing a documentary about how he came up with his designs for Alien, and how he met up with what's his face, the director of Alien. Shit, I forgot the guy's name. Fuck, I can't believe I'm dropping it. I can't believe the old guy. But it's a whole documentary about how the artist who created all the Alien designs, and if you follow art at all, he has a bunch of art elsewhere and stuff like that. How he came up with it and stuff like that, and collaborating with the studios to make, and how like the original designs look nothing like what ended up in the movie and stuff like that, and all these crazy because the H.R. Giger is he's a crazy German guy, and he likes to draw things that look like dicks and pussies and stuff like that, and that's why like the alien's head looks like a big long dick, and how like the mouth on the face huggers looks like a pussy and stuff like that. So so they're doing a so they're doing a documentary about that, but then they were also involved later on with the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie. So I was talking to the girl, and I'm like, oh yes, I already got my tickets. So they had in the movie, part of the Jay and Silent Bob reboot is a fake Comic-Con called Chronic Con, where fans who liked the Jay and Silent Bob movie, in that universe from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, they did a Blunt Man and Chronic movie. Well, in this universe or whatever, I guess for the past 10 years, fans of the movie have started their own Comic-Con called Chronic Con, and so she had all these lanyards with passes on them for Chronicon, and when you watch the scene, there's a couple hundred people walking around, and she goes, these are screen used, these are from the actual set of the movie that people wore on screen. And I said, look, I bought 3 tickets, and because she goes, oh, you can, and I'm like, I bought 3 tickets, can I get 3 of them? And I kind of finessed her into giving me more than just one, so I grabbed a couple of those screen used, and and I'm such a big Kevin Smith fan and stuff like that, that's not you can't just buy that in a store. So that was pretty cool. Let me see. So then, all right, then there was a DC Nation panel, talking about all the DC comics, and, they understand that, like, how people are sort of getting a little, every couple of years they do the reboot, they had the 52, then they had the new 52, then they had the rebirth. Like, DC Comics, every couple of years they kind of restart everything because, as new fans come in, new fans get a little frustrated with, like, when you're trying to watch, get into Batman, and Batman's on issue 600, how much can you get into it if you're getting into issue 600? There's all these, so they do these reboots to sort of, like, placate the new fans, but now they've decided to embrace the whole, like, multiverse aspect of it all, and they're weaving together, like, a giant universe, which includes every reboot that they've done, every time they've started from scratch again, and it's going to be a whole thing. So, and they showed, like, the timeline, and it's like you need like a spreadsheet to fucking understand what the fuck's going on. But I think it's smart enough and cool enough that they're just, it's not like they're flushing history down the toilet whenever they do a reboot or whatever. But they're sort of embracing that whole thing. All right, let me see what else. During my interviews, I was backstage. But he was kind of standing out, Chris Jericho and now he's promoting the AEW wrestling and stuff like that. So, I kind of finessed my way up to him, like, hey, look, and I haven't seen AEW at all, but I was like, hey man, I'm really digging AEW, and and he does he has a band called Fozzy, and he has a podcast called, Talk is Jericho. So I'm like, I love Talk is Jericho, I like Fozzy, do you mind if I take a picture? And he's like, oh, it's cool. So the funny thing is, a little earlier, and I'll talk about that in a second, I was doing a press room there's a show coming up on Netflix called Daybreak, and so after the press room, they were taking photos, and so he was like, oh, what is this about? Who are those people? So, like, I got to talk to Chris Jericho for, a good couple minutes about the show Daybreak. I'm like, oh yeah, I just left the press room, and it's a show about, these kids that are, a bomb goes off and it kills, like, all the adults. It's like a weird chemical weapon bomb that's specifically designed to kill all the adults, and all these kids survive, and how they go to high school, but it's since all the adults are dead, it becomes like this weird, funky Mad Max world where, like, all the jocks have become like a gang, and they wear fucking, they wear sports equipment, but they become like a murderous gang, and, like, the cheerleaders they call cheerzons, or like the Amazon cheerleaders, and then, like, there's the 4-H club where, like, they grow the vegetables, they also grow weed, and the principal on the show is played by Matthew Broderick, who I got a chance to take a picture with and stuff like that. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And the show in and of itself, which is based on a comic, the main character always used to talk to the screen. Way before Deadpool and all these other fucking movies, Ferris Bueller was one of, like, a character that was known back in the day for breaking the fourth wall. So it was, like, really interesting that way back when they started this comic, 10, 15 years ago, that they got, where the character's kind of ripping off Ferris Bueller. They actually got the guy who played Ferris Bueller, to be a part of the show. And then, like, and I wasn't familiar with the comic, so I'm like, oh, do we see you doing action scenes? And he goes, I die in the beginning. He gets killed by, like, corn or rice or some shit like that, and he's like, I don't know how much I'm supposed to reveal, but I got killed. And it was interesting because that was Saturday, and then that Saturday night, Matthew Broderick was on Saturday Night Live, but he's from New York, so he's, him being in town was he's always in town because he's from New York. He's a New York guy. All right, give me a moment as I take a break. Sorry about that. Okay, and so I took that selfie with Chris Jericho, and so once again, this 900-year-old security guard, as I like Jacob Javits, but their security aren't exactly the sharpest tools in the shed. She's like, I saw you take a picture with him, and you got a press pass and all that, but you ain't supposed to be taking no pictures with them. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry, I apologize. I saw an opportunity and I took it, and I don't mean any disrespect. And I was talking to him, and he seemed, and I asked him first, and he seemed cool with it. But don't let it happen again. I was like, all right, I'm sorry, man.
Who was it?
Chris Jericho.
No, I mean, who is the person yelling at you?
Oh, a security guard, just one of the people in the back.
Well, fuck that bitch.
So, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I took a picture with Chris Jericho. Like, him and I were talking, and then like I said, look, is it cool if I take a selfie? And Chris Jericho, sure, and he goes, that's the funny thing. I said, I listen to, which I do. I have listened to episodes of Talk is Jericho. I said I listened to Talk is Jericho. I love Fozzy. I was embellishing a little bit.
Fucking suck up.
When I said, but I mean, I've liked Chris Jericho from wrestling, and Y2J when he was WWE. So I wasn't exactly lying. I was maybe stretching the truth a little bit. And he goes, wow, you're a fan. He said, that was kind of funny. He goes, wow, you're a fan. But I mean, I also spoke to him. I talked to him about Daybreak. So if he ever watches Daybreak, I was the guy that kind of hipped him to what's going on here. But like I said, so I walked away from the area, and then like the security guard, she saw me like once I walked a little bit away. She says, "Come here, you're not supposed to be taking no pictures with the celebrities." And I said, "Look, I saw an opportunity and I took it. I'm sorry, And I asked, but I said I did ask him for permission. I didn't just whip out my phone. And but and I guess she's doing her job because we're there doing press. Yes, you were not supposed to be just trying to get pictures, selfies with celebrities. So then once again, we did Daybreak panel, which looks pretty good. By the time this episode comes out, it comes out on the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. So, check out Daybreak on Netflix. And now the highlight of the weekend, the main, the thing that made my weekend, a couple years ago I was meeting, William Shatner, getting on a TV show with Jack and Triumph, getting a hug from Tara Strong and stuff like that. This year's highlight was a one Miss Rosario Dawson. While we were, they were promoting Wonder Woman Bloodlines, and go back and follow the history of the show. For years we've been saying that the DC animated movies are fucking awesome. And pretty much, for the past couple of years, Rosario Dawson has been playing the voice of Wonder Woman, which, I would love to see Rosario Dawson in a fucking Wonder Woman movie. I'm pretty sure a lot of people wouldn't like that, but, even if she wasn't necessarily, even if she was playing along with Gal Gadot, like she doesn't have to be Wonder Woman, but she looks like she can be an Amazon. She's pretty and she's in shape and
just have your nerdgasm now already. Okay.
Yeah. So I think, what had ingratiated myself to her is that, she's from the Lower East Side. I'm from the Lower East Side. And her first movie that she got famous over was a movie called Kids. And I don't know if you ever saw Kids, but it's a fucking wild fucking... It's fake, but it looks like it's filmed like a documentary. And it's about kids hanging out Lower East Side, fucking doing drugs, smoking weed, doing whippets, riding on skateboards, all this shit. And the area that, that was the area I used to hang out around Washington Square Park, Tompkins Square Park. She grew up around Tompkins Square Park. So I was like, look, I said, I'm class of 95. She's 2 years younger than me. So she's like class of 97. And I'm like, I'm class of 95. I hung out Lower East Side, Washington Square Park all the time. I said, when I saw Kids, that was like a fucking documentary. That was like a real documentary from my life. And, so I had my mustache. And she started playing with her mustache, and you'll see in the interview, and she was so fucking nice and so fucking cool. And of course, I was able to, do my job and and ask her questions about Wonder Woman. But, this is someone from my neighborhood. This is someone who, for all intents and purposes, we could have hung out in the same circle of friends, which I'll get to in a second because another person I used to hang out with is a famous artist with Marvel now. So that was the fucking highlight. She touched my mustache, she gave me a hug, she was like, all cool and shit like that with me, and it's sort of like, and I think because, she could and then like I said, my name's, when I introduced myself in the interview, I said, it's Chris Colon. Christopher Colon, like, that's a very Spanish fucking name and shit like that, Cristobal Colon and all this shit. So, I don't know, it felt like meeting someone that you've known for, if we came from the same, we came from the same tribe, we come from the same people, it felt like I was meeting like a cousin or something like that, a cousin I want to fuck.
What you're saying is you're going to support Cory Booker. I get you. Okay.
Wait, what is it? Wait, what?
Because she's dating Cory Booker.
Oh, well, no. Why would I want to support the guy that's having sex with the girl that I want to have sex with? And I heard through the grapevine that she at one point messed around with, what's his face? The guy who has a show on Adult Swim, the black guy with the wild hair that he's always throws himself into a desk and shit like that. Eric Andre. I had heard she messed around with him for a little while also. I don't know. Look, she's fucking gorgeous, and and she's even prettier in real life. But that was the fucking highlight of the whole fucking weekend. Like every year something really fucking cool happens, and I think that was the thing this year. And also part of these interviews, there was another voice actress there who goes by the name of Courtney Taylor. Now, of course, that's not exactly an everyday name, but if anybody has ever played Fallout 4, she's the voice of the main, and you make your character. You make your character if you want to be a guy or a girl or whatever. So if you choose the female character, Courtney Taylor is the character. And, that's, as you being the main character, she has, of all the female voice actors in the game, she has the most lines, and I believe, and I'm not exaggerating when they say that it was like 111,000 spoken lines in that video game. So I mean, she put months in of work, because it's not like a TV show, or it's not like a cartoon where you come and you do one line and that's it. She had to do for all the branching storylines and DLC and all of this shit. She had tons and tons of work. So for a person like me, and I love Fallout 4, that was like, holy shit, like I love your, I love your voice. I love, and she's a pretty cool, I've seen other interviews with her and she's pretty fucking fun. So it's Courtney Taylor. So I think, there's still a bit more to Comic-Con to go, but let's, take a break right here and we'll be back with more Dick and Fart jokes.
Thank God.
This episode of Two Strangers, One Podcast is brought to you by Comics Etc. 1115 East Main and North Goodman at the Hungerford Building, door number 8. Find out more information at comicsetc.biz or like them on Facebook at facebook.com/comicsetc1.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of it.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little history
up.
doll popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was
How
going to be a rough
could you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
And we're back. All right, Paul. So, still regaling us with stories of New York Comic-Con.
See, you're forgetting one story that, well, not story for you, but, while Chris is over here finessing with stars and everything, my staff member is over here getting breaking news.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta fuck with him because here's Chris is like, yeah, I'm going to this panel. Yeah, I'm gonna go to this panel. I'm over here going,
yeah,
dude, I missed some fucking news.
I'm there to do anime stuff, and if it was, if it was stuff in Jacob Javits. And I know I feel like a fucking asshole, like when it comes to stuff like that, but it's sort of like, I mean, like if you said, and we've done it in the past, if there was an interview off site, obviously, yes, I'll be right there because, interviews are priority and stuff like that. And if it was an interview, like, okay, it was great meeting Rosario Dawson, obviously, and I love it. But if you said, Chris, there's an interview at the exact same time as and I don't know, it's not guaranteed I'm going to meet Rosario Dawson. And once again, in this particular situation, you know, I also ingratiated myself to her because, you know, we have sort of a shared history. I sort of, you know, had you said at the same time, look, Chris, you know, during the DC Wonder Woman panel, you know, I have an interview with such and such here, you know, at the anime part, I would have gone, you know, saying the anime stuff takes priority. And, you know, it's just, you know, if it's not a direct interview, I'm gonna fucking go kiss celebrities' asses. But you know, this year, and it's just like, it's so weird that, like, you know, usually we get a bit more interviews of anime people, which we did. I mean, I'll get to that later. The big anime gets.
It seems like everything for people that listen to this podcast. The funny thing is whenever we go to New York Comic Con, it's like everything happens at the last fucking minute. Like, you know, I literally started asking like these companies that are going. I'm like, hey, do you have anybody going? Do you want to, you know, can we set up some interviews? And by the way, you know, Chris had talked about Chris Sabbath, whatever you want to call it,
Chris
whatever.
Sabat and Sean Schemmel, yeah.
Yeah. We've interviewed them so many times that there's not really a point to interview them yet again. Yeah. So,
yeah, I'm pretty sure if we pushed the issue, we could have gotten to that interview. They've been gracious enough in the past, but I mean, you know, how many times can you hit that well?
So, I mean, we really, I mean, if you think about it, we really didn't get as many interviews as we usually do, but I think more or less like Matt and Chris kind of got these on the fly, so to speak, because, you know, Funimation got back to me the last minute, as they usually do. And, you know, the problem with that is it's like, you know, when they get back to me last minute, it's usually in the middle of me being busy at work, and then I can't get him questions, so then he's got to ask questions, and it's just like, oh my god, like Anime NYC, we know who's going to be there, we're probably going to get everything that we want. And I'm literally going to be able to be like, here, Chris, here's 500,000 questions for you to ask. Pick what you want. You know, so, you know, it does get a little frustrating. And I will point out that the panel where JoJo was announced, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind, which is the 5th JoJo series, I believe, or the 5th season, whatever you want to fucking call it. I didn't think it was going to be announced at the Shonen Jump panel, but, you know, because my guy likes, you know, manga, he went to that panel, and sure enough, they announced it there. So I was just like, you know, as usual, when we first get the scoop, boom, I have it up on all of our news channels, and, well, you know, we jump 100 to 300 followers. So, nice. You know, but then I had to give it to Chris. I was like, so where were you, Chris? What were you doing? oh, I was at, no. Where were you? What are you doing?
You don't get a cookie. Chris Jericho.
I'll be like, you don't get a cookie. V-Lord gets the cookie. So
yeah, he did a good job this first year. I guarantee you next year he's gonna want to go back again and stuff like that. Cause
dude, I'm gonna tell you something. Like V-Lord is like at. He's gone to like 5 or 6 cons this year already, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, where do you get this fucking money from? His family's got to be loaded, man. I don't get it, because there's no way that this kid could afford all this shit, because I certainly can't. So,
he's different priorities. He's not a dad. He's not a husband. He's not a. I mean, I don't know. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know if he's a dad or a husband or anything like that. So, you know, when you have that kind of disposable income, you know, fuck it, more power to you. Enjoy yourself while you can. Free
plug. If you want to hear V-Lord, he does the newest podcast that we have. It's called the Demon Slayer Podcast. Look for that on all of your streaming podcast apps and whatnot. And yeah, you can listen to him there. So if you're curious at what he sounds like, he's probably better looking than, what's his name? Oscar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so. You know, I mean, and you know, maybe we gotta have him on one night or whatever to get like his tales of Comic-Con and stuff like that. Because I know Matt's not a big talker. Matt doesn't
Don't be stealing my people.
Well, no, I'm just saying is, you know, he was joining us on his journey. We'd like to hear his stories and stuff like that. You know, instead of hearing me just fucking yam around for 2 hours.
Hey, listen, Darrell wants to be on again. Go get Darrell first.
Yeah. So one day we'll hook it up. We'll have everybody on, have a nice fun show. But you know, so I mean, I'm pretty sure he had a good time. I'm pretty sure he wants to go again next year. And he got the scoops because he has the fucking energy and drive to go to the places that I don't want to go, because, you know, it's fucking, you know, it is exhausting to go to these.
Dude, I'm gonna get you in shape, man. You just got to come to the gym with me. We're gonna get you in shape. You're gonna be like, all the girls gonna be like, ooh, look at that mustache. Ooh, look at Chris's body, and then there you go. You'll get laid at NYCC too.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about Rosario Dawson. I have my
Exactly.
have
Your
my
own Rosario Dawson. There you go. So,
all right, and so I think at this part of my notes we are kind of about halfway through Comic-Con. Ran into, and it's funny, like I had mentioned earlier, I used to hang out in Washington Square Park and all this other stuff. There was an artist there who I follow on social media who I haven't seen in person in years, and her name is Afua Richardson, AFUA Richardson, and she's done covers, and she's done comics for. She does a lot of cover work, but she's done straight up the whole comic. For DC, for Marvel, and even in the Black Panther movie. In the movie, because she was doing Black Panther before the movie came out, and she had done a lot of research on like West African cultures and stuff like that. So she brings in traditional artwork into her style. That being said, when you see the on Black Panther, when you see the Okoye beads, when they have like symbols on them and stuff like that, the black beads that have like the purple lit up symbols, that stuff is, I mean, of course she's basing it on West African art, but she updated it and stuff like that. But when you see stuff in the Black Panther, that's from her, and they let her know before they were doing the movie, because, and once when you work for these companies, you sort of you give your soul to these companies and stuff like that, and but they told her that when we're using these symbols, we're basing it off your work, which she based off of, she did her research and stuff like that, so they skipped the middleman. But hey, I'm not who's fucking complaining. And so, and also you have the bragging rights that, those symbols that you see in fucking Black Panther, that's based on my fucking work. So, she and I kind of ran with the same crew. I mean, we weren't friends, like we didn't hang out all the time, but we hung out in the same circle. Like her best friend, I don't want to say her best friend, but like, one of her very, very, very close friends, was a girl that I had a crush on years ago. And that girl's, I don't want to use the word baby daddy, but that girl's baby's father, the kid's father, I went to high school with. And we all of us used to kind of hang out in the same crew. And it's funny because like they ended up having a kid together and stuff like that. The guy's an asshole. I mean, I love him to death because he's my boy, but he's a fucking asshole. And he's a horrible father. But
wow.
But that being said, I had a crush on this other girl way, when they first, him and I met the same girl on the same day, and I had a crush on her. But he's I guess he's a more, I don't want to say, he's definitely not a better looking guy, but basically, but he got with her and they had a kid together. But and it's funny, like him and I met her the same day and stuff like that. But I mean, once again, it's all like soap opera bullshit. But we all ran in the same crew, and it's so weird that. And I'm so fucking proud for her, and I'm so glad she's fucking doing awesome, and she's, she's doing the whole Comic-Con circuit, because, she's like in Baltimore Comic-Con, or she was this past weekend, her name may not be fucking mainstream today, but, she's working her way up there, and I'm super fucking proud of her, and it's like, once again, another as opposed to Rosario Dawson and I, like, we kind of hung out in the same era. We never really hung out, but like this girl, Afua Richardson, like, we fucking hung out. Like, she goes, I remember you. And I'm like, yeah, I know this and this person, that. Oh, that's right. And her and I, we've chatted on Facebook and stuff like that, but it's sort of, she deals with so many fans and stuff like that, she doesn't, it's hard to remember every single fucking person. But, I was kind of bringing up stories from, oh yeah, I remember this, I remember that. So, super fucking proud of her. And then right next to her was, the booth for DMC, from Run DMC. And there's a DMC comic book. And that's been out for a couple of years. And, there's new issues and editions and stuff like that. But, and it was also cool meeting Run DMC. And it's like, my older brother and I, when we were kids, like when my family used to go on road trips and stuff like that, and my dad finally like let my brother like use the radio or be able to choose what music we listen to and stuff like that. My brother always used to rock Run DMC. Run DMC and the Beastie Boys were like shit that I grew up on. And it's funny because like I'm not into rap, I'm into more metal, but old school Run DMC they sampled a lot of they had guitar riffs and stuff like that in their songs. And so I got a chance to talk to them for a minute and stuff like that. So that was fucking super cool. Like meeting, childhood hero. I mean, DMC is like, had you told me, 15, 20 years ago that I was going to meet him, I would have said you're full of shit. But, it's such a, Run DMC was such a chunk of my childhood. Let me see. I went to a panel where they're doing Rick and Morty, like official Dungeons and Dragons, like the people who do official Dungeons and Dragons, there's a whole like Rick and Morty campaign, and I think now they're even doing like a second edition, like they're doing even more the further adventures of Rick and Morty. And so part of the panel was like they played like a legit game, like in the hour that they were there, they played like a legit game of D&D, of Dungeons and Dragons, but in the Rick and Morty universe, like, you know, but the same way there was monsters in Rick and Morty, it was you would run, like, you handle monsters in Dungeons and Dragons. So that was pretty fucking cool. So if you're into that, and pretty much, I mean, if you're into fucking Dungeons and Dragons, you pretty much like Rick and Morty. So that was pretty cool. Dan Fogler, and for those, and if that name doesn't exactly ring a bell, Balls of Fury. He was the guy from Balls of Fury. He was in the the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. He was the heavyset guy in those movies. He did the movie Fanboys. It totally surprised me. He actually has not a cameo, but he has a small part in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I mean, excuse me, Jay and Silent Bob reboot. He was there, but dude, he lost a lot of fucking weight. Like I didn't even recognize him. I passed by his booth because I knew he was going to be there, and you know, I was following him. But the funny thing is, like, I followed him on Twitter, but I haven't seen a picture of him recently. And, you know, or if I did, it didn't click in my head that I was looking at a picture of him. He lost a lot of fucking weight. Now, when I went, because first I passed by the booth and I saw him, and I'm like, no, that's not him. That's his brother or something. Like, you know, he hired his brother to fucking handle his merchandise or something like that. So then I turn around, I come back, but by the time I came back, he had actually walked away from the booth because he was stressed out because the girl said he must have lost something. So like when I was talking to him, he was kind of stressing about whatever the fuck he lost or whatever. So like it was cool to talk to him, but like he could tell he was not in the mood to fucking, you know, chat it up with a fucking fan. You know, and once again, I wasn't mad at him or anything like that. You know, he was stressing out about something, but like, you know, like he looked stressed and he lost a lot of weight. I'm like, I hope he's okay. You know, like, you know, I like a guy, once again, you know, from a guy who was a fat guy, you know, he represents us, you know, he lost all this weight, you know, I was like, I hope you're healthy, I hope you're safe, I hope everything's cool with you, you know, I hope you're losing weight in a nice, healthy, safe fashion. But, you know, it was pretty cool. And then he was part of, one of the things he was selling was he had contributed to this Megadeth, you know, and I love Megadeth. They put out like this huge edition. It's a fucking like a coffee table book of comics. And they had different people take like songs from Megadeth and turn them into stories, to like comic book stories, like an anthology. And then the funny thing is that, you know, Megadeth did that back in the day. They did that back in like 98, 99. And so it's weird. Like I was telling them, like, oh yeah, that's like, when they did that series, it was called Cryptic Writings. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cryptic. And like, it was weird. It was like, he had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. So I'm like, I don't know if I was like a dick, like, hey, you know what you're doing? They did that shit 20 years ago. You know, like I'm the asshole. Like, hey, you're not doing anything new. You're doing, I didn't say it like that, but I was sort of like, oh yeah, like the Cryptic Writings. And he looked at me and he tilted his head. I'm like, yeah, Cryptic Writings, where they turned their songs into comic book stories and had it published like a comic book. And he didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. But then again, I guess I'm such a fucking nerd that I know shit like that. But that was cool. Then we did a panel for, there's a show, it's called Tacoma FD, but, more famously, it's the guys who did the Super Troopers, 1 and 2. And in particular, the two, the guys who played, Farva and Mac, and the actors' names are Kevin Heffernan and Steve Lemmy. Now, mind you, you know, anybody who's a fan of the Super Troopers movie, you know, the you know, so much attention has been given to mustaches and stuff like that. So I come into the panel, I have my handlebar mustache, rocking the handlebar mustache, and it's funny, the first thing they do is they both come over to me like, hey, what products do you use? So it's sort of like this weird, you know, it's this weird bonding thing with guys or whatever, especially them that, you know, the mustaches are part of their personas in the Super Troopers movies. You know, I use this thing called Honest Amish, and there's all this stuff, and that was a pretty cool interview. Got to talk to, you know, a couple other guys from the show, and once again, I'm so out of it, I didn't even know, like, we're doing a thing for Tacoma FD. They're filming season 2 now. You know, I didn't even see season 1 yet. You know, but I am a fan of the Super Trooper movies. So, you know, when they're like, oh yeah, and people are asking them questions about stuff that's happening in season 1, and I'm like, I had my head up my ass because I didn't know that there was a season 1 out yet. I thought this was for season 1. Okay. So, that was kind of cool. So, alright. I have a cool story here, and I hope I don't get anybody in trouble with this. All right, so we did once again, Netflix being really awesome with us. We did the Lost in Space interview, and that one was where it was, they would have two actors come to the table and everyone else is sitting at the table asking them questions around the round table interviews. So, and of course, everybody on the show was cool, and I really liked Lost in Space season 1, and they're filming season 2 now. Or they have filmed and it's going to be released soon. And right now I think they're in that phase where they finished filming, but there's so much special effects that right now everything is in post production, as they call it. All right, so when they're interviewing the people before us, they had mentioned that they were filming in an area, I believe it was up in Canada, where it's so far the largest concentration of discovered dinosaur bones. All right, so. Then, the guys had joked about, that even though they're outside of the protected area, they said that they were literally like bones just, you look down on the ground and you think it's a rock and it's a fucking dinosaur bone. But since they weren't like in a protected area, the joke was, oh yeah, we're taking the dinosaur bones, we're a couple ended up in my suitcase. And so, and we all laughed and stuff like that. So now the actors rotate out. And then the new actors rotate in, and it's Parker Posey. And so the other interviewer, if you watch the show, the guy who plays Don West, the Spanish guy on this version of Lost in Space, he was talking about how they filmed season 1. And if you remember, there's a part where there's a St. Christopher medal, St. Christopher being the patron saint of travel. Ironically, they get lost. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I took home the St. Christopher medal." So I said, "Oh wow." I said, taking home the St. Christopher medal, taking home dinosaur bones, and Parker Posey looks at me with the most dead-ass serious face, like I knew some insider fucking information. She goes, "They told you about the dinosaur bones?" So I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the line they find out that the cast of Lost in Space and Parker Posey have fucking dinosaur bones that they took from like a protected area. And once again, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but I mean, there's 10 people sitting around this fucking table. Every one of us has a recording device on. But like I said, when I had mentioned the St. Christopher medal and then the bones, dead ass, she looks at me, she goes, "They told you about the dinosaur bones?" So I was like,
that's funny.
It took her by surprise that obviously she wasn't prepared to answer like that. And so, and once again, I mean, I don't think they're not going to sell it on a black market or anything like that. They probably took it home and put it on their fucking mantelpiece, which, quite frankly, I would do the exact same fucking thing if I had the opportunity. So I thought that was kind of funny. Once again, Parker Posey, and the whole thing is like, I just wanted to take a picture of Parker Posey because if my ex-wife trolls my page, just because my ex-wife loved Parker Posey, so like, fuck you, bitch, look at that, I'm taking a picture with a girl you really, really like. So a big fuck you to her. Okay, then there was Margot Robbie. Well, when I say Margot Robbie, actually the whole cast of Birds of Prey showed up to do interviews, showed up to do autographs, but you had to win the had I known there was opportunity for a lottery, I would have entered. I didn't know it existed, but and you see all these people crowding this area, but for the line to actually get to do autographs was protected, and they had security guards and all this other shit. And of course, everything is linked to your past. So even if I try to sneak in there, they would have zapped my past and fucking kicked my ass out of there. But Margot Robbie, I believe Rosie Perez, and a couple other people from the Birds of Prey movie were there signing autographs, but it was a fucking like frenzy. Like I couldn't get a clear picture of her because everybody was sort of just like, crowding the area. But I mean, it just shows you that even with the star power of New York Comic Con, that even Margot Robbie showed up and they were promoting Birds of Prey. It was funny. Did you ever see the movie Snowpiercer?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a movie. Now they're turning it into a TV show, and it's about it's the future and the world's climate's all fucked up. So there's this one, the super scientist built this train that it goes on the tracks, and the train has to keep moving. Because even though the rest of the world is frozen, if the train was to ever stop, everyone on the train would freeze to death. But then so it's basically all of society is now on this train, where the rich people live in the front, the poor people live in the back. And in the original movie, it has what's his face, the guy who plays Captain America. He's the main antagonist, protagonist of the movie. And there's fan theories out there that if you watch the movie, it's very much Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, where even the on the train there's a big W on it, and it's sort of like someone took Willy Wonka and put Willy Wonka's in the Chocolate Factory in the post-apocalyptic future, and where when Captain America meets the scientist in the front of the train, that is Willy Wonka. It's sort of like the kid going through, all the other people falling to the side while he makes it to the end to run the chocolate factory. So what happens is part of the promotion for this movie is they were giving out protein bars. And in the show, and if you watch the movie, I mean, and I guess they talk about the show, people, since sources or resources are scarce, they basically use like roaches and crickets and stuff like that. They eat bugs for protein, because bugs, they populate, once you have, they populate and you can grow a lot of them fast and stuff like that. It doesn't take much to feed them because, roaches will eat shit or whatever. And then you could eat the roaches for protein. So they were actually giving out, cricket protein bar, like chocolate and cricket. And then like, it literally has on the instructions, on the ingredients, cricket powder. And so I had to eat one. I said, fuck it, I had to eat one. And it's weird when you get the little bits stuck between your teeth, like, oh, it's fucking crickets. But I've had a cricket energy bar, or cricket protein bar, but it was to promote the Snowpiercer, the TV show that's coming out now. Ran into real quick Ming Chen from Comic Book Men, and long-term listeners of the show. Back in the day, we were on an episode of Mike and Ming in the Morning. So, there's a history there, and it's, and I stopped him for a moment, and we were talking for like a quick second because, the girl that actually got us on the show, we were kind of talking about her and stuff like that. And, and he's so been, I follow Ming Chen on Twitter and stuff like that, and he's all over the place. Like his life now is just going to Comic Cons and stuff like that. So, and doing, and he has his own podcast studio. Like what he did is he built an area where, like, if you want to do a podcast, you can come to his studio and record your podcast there. And they have streaming cameras and all this other shit. And then I guess part of the packages is like, if you rent the studio, he'll put it on his Twitter page. Like, he'll put on his Twitter feed. So I was like, oh yeah, such and such people are recording in the studio right now. So then, so you could listen to, on Facebook and stuff like that, so you can follow. So I was, and I don't think we'll ever do that. We kind of have our own little corner of the world here, but if we ever wanted to. But I think his is based in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they started to do one in Jersey, since the comic book stores in Jersey, but because I think they did it in Texas because the people that he invested in with the podcast studio with like guys that are like athletes and stuff like that, like NFL players and stuff like that. So they chose Texas because I think the weather's always nice in Texas or whatever. Mm-hmm. For people who follow my Facebook feed, I ran into my buddies who this year were cosplaying as Men in Black, and it was like 3 black guys, so like black men in black. But that was pretty, it was pretty cool. They couldn't even enjoy their fucking Comic-Con because they were being stopped to take pictures every 2 seconds. My friend Zombie Mario this year actually didn't play Zombie Mario at all. He did one day. He was Dude Thing, the same way like there was the Dude Thor from Endgame where he grew his hair out and got fat. He did that, but as the Thing. And then he played this character. It's a character from Venture Brothers, which I'm not familiar with. Something St. Cloud, Austin St. Cloud, I think was the name of the character from Venture Brothers. And so it was a very unique cosplay, but I'm not. Yeah, and I like the Venture Brothers. I'm not super familiar with it. So then of course there was the we finally was it the last day there? Oh no, then we did the Batman Beyond panel,
which was the last day.
And of course, got the chance to meet, Kevin Conroy yet again. James Tucker, who's the producer, and we've interviewed James Tucker in the past, and Will Friedle. And hopefully, we've established things where maybe, knock on wood, if we can continue to, we might be able to get a long-term interview with him, or at least something a little more, or should I say for you, to get an interview with him, something that's a little more than just 2 questions.
Oh yes.
But Will Friedle, Boy Meets World, and the voice of my God, why am I drawing a blank on
Terry McGinnis?
Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond. But Batman Beyond is coming out on Blu-ray, which shit. And then that was my exclusive. Also, was that James Tucker, the producer, during our interview, had basically said that Warner Brothers wants to do an animated Batman Beyond movie. So now I don't think he clarified whether it's going to be a theatrical release or a movie release. But then again, a theatrical release or Blu-ray release. But he tends to do all the Blu-ray stuff. He tends to do all the home home video stuff. So I think they want to do it. So he said if this sells well, if the Blu-ray sells well enough, that will get the ball rolling on a DC animated movie, Batman Beyond. So I'm super fucking excited about that. So fucking go out there. First, I mean, the cartoon's fucking awesome anyway. Why wouldn't you want it on Blu-ray? But, you know, more of a reason to get it when it comes out is that if they sell enough units, you get the ball rolling on a new Batman Beyond movie. Come on, buy your fucking DVDs and buy your Blu-rays and stuff. Then my girlfriend Lauren Moore.
Jesus Christ.
She works for for those who don't follow her, she works for Funimation. She's a very attractive girl. Every year, I comment about how much I have a crush on her and stuff like that. I got a really good picture of her at the panel where she's standing there. She looks pissed off about something, and there's another girl talking to her, and out of context, it looks like she's ignoring the girl or whatever. That's one of her work associates. That's actually that woman actually helped us out with the Funimation stuff. But I just like the context of the photo. Lauren looks so cute in the picture, and we were kind of talking about her. And I guess I had just putting her name on Facebook, and it tagged her. So while we're here talking shit, she's actually seeing all the stuff that we're saying. And thank goodness none of us said anything really fucking stupid. But and then she kind of she kind of commented like, "Thank you guys, you made my day," or whatever. It's a great picture and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. Then I guess of the interviews, our last major interviews was once again sort of, I guess, last minute deal, but still fucking awesome. The Funimation interviews, which we had. Is it Justin Moore? Is that the guy's name?
No. Justin Briner? No.
Justin Cook.
Justin Cook. There we go.
I don't know why. Because I saw Lauren Moore, and I think that's why. The Justin Cook, who is like, he's running things over at Funimation when it comes to he's overseeing, and he does voice work and stuff like that, and he's been the director, but he's sort of like the main honcho, where he goes, every 18 months they put out a new set of shows and stuff like that. So when all these shows come over from Japan, the ones that are, I guess, aren't even simulcast or whatever, he's the one in charge of organizing all the voice actors to come in and recording their parts and making sure that everybody, and like one of the shows that he is the voice director for is One Piece, and and isn't One Piece aren't they like 900 episodes or some shit like that? Isn't it like some ridiculous number like that?
Well, they actually just started redubbing it apparently. So,
but I mean, my point being is,
or not redubbing it. I'm sorry, like dubbing the episodes that have been out. But yeah, One Piece is like over 900 episodes at this point. But they've only, I think, dubbed 575 or something like that. So
Jesus Christ, I'm saying, like, even okay, The Simpsons just hit. Like, I just saw the most recent, Treehouse of Horror, and that was literally episode, 666. So, they have more episodes than the fucking Simpsons, and the Simpsons has been out since fucking 1989, and his job is to try to coordinate the American actors, and there's translation, and then there's, then you have to record people, and then, of course, you can't just record two regular people, you have to make it look like they're interacting with each other. And so, it's a fucking Herculean task that he's doing, and he's the one that coordinates it, and amongst all the other shows that Funimation, all the other dubbing work that gets done in Texas, he's sort of in charge of that. So he's a big man on campus over there. So it was cool to interview him, and he's super laid back. Then there was Colleen Clinkenbeard,
yes,
who was the voice of
Luffy
on One Piece, and once again, I'm not the biggest anime fan, but I recognize that, that's, she has a lot of power, to be the character, to be the voice of such a beloved character with people fucking love is pretty awesome.
She's also the ADR director on My Hero Academia. So
yeah, I forgot. And then I had asked, and once again, they want to talk about the things that they're talking about. So My Hero Academia, at that particular time is getting plenty of press and stuff like that. So I tried to ask, can we talk about My Hero Academia? And they kind of put the kibosh on that, which once again understandable. My Hero Academia is doing very well enough as it is, and it's on Toonami right now, or is it? I know it was on Toonami, but I don't know if
it is still on Toonami, but we're not sure if season 4 will play on there yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, if history's any indicator, it'll eventually be on Toonami. Let me see. So, and then the last gentleman, and I lost his fucking name. The guy from Dragon Ball Z? Do you remember the last dude? Or or the name of his character?
I know who you're talking about. He plays Jiren. Patrick Seitz?
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah.
Was it Patrick Seitz? I believe it was Patrick Seitz.
Yeah. Let me see. And I should fucking voice actor, wonderful podcasting.
I believe it was
Patrick Seitz. And and it's funny. It's very much like when I met Ian Sinclair, once again another voice actor from Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super. Is that it's like, of course the interview is going to be about voice acting and stuff like that, but we were kind of just shooting the shit about like heavy metal and life in general and cartoons and really cool fucking dude. And if you follow Dragon Ball Super, he was the voice of Jiren this past season. And now mind you, we were recording this on a Sunday. The last episode of Dragon Ball Super played that Saturday night in America on Toonami. But he was coming from a family wedding or something like that, and I think he might have even been in Japan if I'm not mistaken. But he came to the United States, so he was traveling when that last episode was playing. So that day on Sunday, they played that last episode for the crowd. So it's so weird, like, the main antagonist for this season of Dragon Ball Super is watching the episode for the first time in a room full of people who just watched it the night before. But, and it was funny. We were literally sitting like two people down from, well, we had interviewed him and then we went to the panel. And he's literally sitting like just next to Matt. Like there was Matt and then Patrick Seitz, and and then they bring him up to the front of the panel to talk to people. So it's sort of like pretty fucking awesome that we're there watching him watch himself over something over this season that he was the main antagonist for. So that's all the Comic Con stuff. So then there was, I just wanted to mention there was a Watchmen Lounge, which was pretty fucking cool. And I want to give a shout out to all the people in the Watchmen Lounge because that was kind of you go there and grab something to drink or grab something to eat, and everyone in there was real chill and stuff like that. All right, so you want to get into the nerdy news while we have a little bit more time? The whole first,
as long as you're not going to kill me with another hour of this, yes.
No. Let's I guess we'll quick shot all this stuff. Once again, as usual, we do these episodes and life happens. We were supposed to do this last week, but with the holiday and everything like that, it kind of threw us both for a loop, so we weren't able to record until tonight.
It's Chris's fault.
Yeah, the Joker movie, watched it, wasn't thrilled with it. It was visually a beautiful movie, and I understand what they were doing with it, but we've seen this movie already. I've seen Taxi Driver. I've seen King of Comedy. I'm of the opinion that a Joker movie didn't necessarily have to be made. I know all these people, they're super excited that, it's a movie, but it's not, it's a superhero movie, but it's not in that universe of, Ben Affleck's Batman and Shazam and Suicide Squad and stuff like that. So a lot of people are happy about that. And I'm not a big, I didn't like it. I don't think the Joker... Sorry about the scraping. I don't think the Joker needs an origin movie. I'm glad they made it. The people from DC are very nice to us, but that being said, I could have given two shits. I watched it. I didn't... I've already seen Falling Down. I've already seen Taxi Driver. I've already seen King of Comedy. I don't necessarily, the movie didn't need to be made. I think I'd mentioned this last episode. WWE's come on to Hulu. Well, it's come to broadcast TV, Fox, and then they're on Hulu now. So I'm actually starting to watch WWE again. Enjoying it. Not really fast forwarding through anything. Just wanted to throw that out there. Glad they're back on broadcast TV. Here's something I think you're gonna light up about. The starting lineup of Disney Plus, as now that Disney Plus has acquired a lot of Fox intellectual property, there's tons of stuff that are going to be available on day one when it comes to Disney afternoon cartoons and Fox Kids cartoons and stuff like that. So I don't know, did you want to elaborate on that about the...
Well, let's just put it this way. Like, everything that I used to watch as a kid is on there, basically. I mean, let's see, all of the Marvel cartoons are on there. Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Spider-Man, X-Men. There's probably a couple more that I'm forgetting, but then there's Tailspin's on there. Darkwing Duck's on there. And then obviously the king of all of the show that I sit there and I go, did Disney really make this show? Because I still can't believe that. Gargoyles.
Oh yeah, Gargoyles. Yeah, great fucking cartoon.
Oh, they're all on there, dude. Like, dude, I'm gonna get this. Like, there's like no like, am I gonna get this or am I not gonna get this? This is going to be got, and that's the way it is. So. and apparently my cat agrees. So, yeah, that's really it. I mean, I'm probably gonna get the deal because my Hulu subscription is gonna be up on November 23rd for the 99-cent promotion that they had. So I'm probably just gonna buy the bundle that's like $12.99. So
yeah, with the Netflix, and and this is something that we were kind of talking about before the podcast.
Somebody's tired too.
In the world of streaming services and stuff like that. Netflix sees the challenge down the road with having to compete with Disney Plus. I guess one of the things that they're actively going to do is they're going to invest less in comedy, stand up and stuff like that. And obviously, I think the rumor was down the line that there's going to be like $70 million. They're giving Eddie Murphy like $70 million for his special when Eddie Murphy comes out of comedy retirement, or whatever you want to call it. They threw Dave Chappelle, I think at one point they had given Dave Chappelle $50 million for his comedy. So I think like the big tentpole ones like that, they're still going to have, they're still going to have those ones. We're still going to get Eddie Murphy. But, for the smaller ones where like they had a whole series called The Degenerates, which I kind of like, which was like really, really dirty comedians. And, what kind of sucks is a lot of what we see on Netflix, because I follow a lot of comedians on Twitter and stuff like that, is a lot of what it's going to hurt these smaller comedians, because what they were doing is they would go and they would raise the money. Let's say, they put together, $50,000 or whatever, and they would record their own special. And then they would go to Netflix and then, ask Netflix, look, give me $60,000 for it. You know what I'm saying? And where, okay, when all is said and done, you made like a $10,000 profit, but, just the fact that you were on Netflix was like better promotion, just being on, because nobody watches fucking, people don't watch like late night TV anymore. Nobody, Jimmy Fallon is okay, and Seth Meyers is okay, and but it used to be back in the day, you had to go on those shows, you had to go on the late night shows and get like to be seen. Nobody watches broadcast TV anymore. Everybody watches streaming services. So, when it came to making a special, if you spent $50,000 on a special and you convinced Netflix to give you $60,000 for it, okay, you're $10,000 ahead of the game, which is good. You got to be able to recoup your bills. But once again, it was more of a promotion thing where people got to know your face because, as a person who watches Netflix, and I watch a lot of comedian specials on Netflix, I've clicked on specials of people that I'm not even fucking, I've never heard of this person before in my life, but I've clicked on. And that's like, that's pure promotion, because then now I got familiar with them. So whenever they come in town, let's say I like, such and such comedian, and I look them up on, oh, they have a Twitter, and oh, they have a podcast, and and then when they come to town, their real money, the money that they live on, was like, oh, okay, I'll see them locally when they come to Rochester or Buffalo or whatever, Syracuse. And so unfortunately with Netflix, with Disney Plus, Netflix looking to compete, comedy specials or people in that world, they're gonna have to find a whole new venue, to get their comedy out there. And one of the other things that Netflix is going to do is really, really crack down on the five accounts to 5 different passwords, for the family account, which has been, let's not mince words here. People have been taking advantage of it where, shit, I've said it on the show, I have my boss's password, and then luckily enough, between his wife and his kids, there's an extra account that no one uses, and that's mine, and so, I don't pay Netflix, I don't watch, Netflix were good to us at Comic-Con, they don't get a dime of my money because my boss pays it. So I bet somewhere down the line, what they're going to do is they'll probably come out with some funky promotion where it'll probably be really, really, really inexpensive. And they'll get you locked into a contract. But what they'll do is, you have to give up your old account, so like, oh, and then, then they could really start regulating what IP addresses, who access your account. Because once again, like, my boss lives a couple states away. So, if it's, but then again, it's sort of, it also, how would they enforce that? Because what if you're a traveler? What if you have, you have a Netflix account, but, you're on the road all the time, and you're watching from your phone. The IP address, I think they could tell if it's a phone or a computer, but, I guess, they're going to do what they can to enforce, not letting accounts do what has been going on where, 5 different people will have access to one account and then they'll start having cheaper accounts, and then so it was like, my boss will probably tell me one day, have a nice life, buddy. You want to watch something, you better fucking pay for it. So,
probably,
it's going to happen where, a lot of people are going to start fighting. But then again, the gravy train has gone on so far. So, Disney Plus has proven to be such a fucking juggernaut, shaking up things at Netflix. So, I like Netflix. Once again, they were really awesome to us at Con. So I hope they figure it out and they survive good and entertaining programming. Got to go see Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I saw it at a Fathoms event, and it was a cool Fathoms event where they actually played Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back first, and then they played Jay and Silent Bob reboot. And the joke is that, reboot is a reboot. It's the same movie over again, just with, new characters and adding diversity and stuff like that. That was a big joke to it. Now, obviously, I liked it. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. I mean, no doy. I don't know if you could watch this movie if you're not a Kevin Smith fan. I guess you could quite possibly watch the movie and enjoy it, but there's so many fucking layers to it and so many inside jokes. And that's why, they're not releasing it in traditional theaters. They had the Fathom events, and once again, you have to be a fan to know about that shit. You're not gonna go, it's not it's not a traditional movie release where they'll, him and Jason Mewes, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes are going town to town, and they'll play their movie, and you can watch it. I think, if they come to your town, let's just say on a Thursday, you could go to their show, which their show is $50 because you watch the movie, and then they do a podcast talking about the movie afterwards. So you're paying for 3 to 4 hours worth of entertainment, but you're paying $50 a head. But I think if you don't want to pay that much, I think if that weekend, if they play your town, it'll be at some local theaters in that town for that weekend, but just that weekend after they play there. So it's this weird, unique model, and it's under Saban, and it's funny because, Saban, who is mostly known for doing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yep.
Kevin, there's a joke about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in the movie, which is pretty fucking funny, and it's in the beginning. So, they're working with Saban, and, but, they have fun with it. They goof on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But, and so, once again, I loved Jay and Silent Bob reboot, but I think if you're a casual fan, you may enjoy it, but I don't think you're going to enjoy it the way it was meant. These are movies where, it's like the Marvel Universe. You have to watch 10 fucking movies to fucking enjoy the last one because, you could watch it by itself, but, if you walked in and just saw Endgame without ever seeing Iron Man or Thor or Captain America, you might be a little fucking lost. They do their best to kind of catch you up, but the full effect comes from watching all the movies prior. So, like I said, I liked it. Now, what was the point I was going to say? Oh, okay. So speaking of Saban, another movie they released recently was Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell, which is the sequel to Devil's Reject. And for me, this is the final nail in the coffin. I like Rob Zombie as a musician. Of all his movies, Devil's Rejects was the only good one. He did the Halloween reboot. He did 1 and 2. Those weren't that great. 31, the one he did a while back, was garbage. Lords of Salem, garbage. House of a Thousand Corpses, which was Devil's Rejects Part 1. House of a Thousand Corpses was garbage. Devil's Rejects, one of the best movies I've ever seen, and now 3 from Hell, which is a sequel to Devil's Rejects, garbage. And I hate to, once again, I'm being awfully cynical. They had to add a Fathoms event, and then the funny thing is, literally the next day it was on DVD at Walmart. So I bought the DVD at Walmart for $14, and I watched it, and I don't think I'm ever gonna watch it again. I wanted to see it, and I would have paid $10 or $12 to see it in the theater anyway. So I paid a couple bucks more to watch it at home, and now it's just gonna sit on my shelf because I'm not, I bought it because I didn't get a chance to see it in the theaters. So that's just my opinion, but I wasn't a big fan of 3 from Hell. Let me see. Took my daughter to go see It Chapter 2. Yes, she's 9. She wanted to see it. She saw Part 1. It was okay. It's better than Part 1, but it's a very weird movie. I guess if you liked Part 1, you'll like Part 2, but it was just a weird. It too it's alright. Let me see. I was gonna say I have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez backing Bernie. We won't get into that. I just have that in my notes. J.J. Abrams says that the ending of episode 9, which we had talked about at the beginning of the episode, will be quoting him, a cohesive ending, that will satisfy all the 3 trilogies, in the prequels, original trilogy, and now the Ray years, the postquels, the sequels. Once again, fixing what Rian Johnson had fucked up originally. And, we got Halloween around the corner. I haven't decided on a costume yet. I don't know what I'm going to be. And deep fake porn. That's my last topic, is deep fake porn. If you've watched these videos online, there's these deep fakes where they take a computer, they analyze a person's face. It's sort of like when you do that face swap on Face app or whatever, or Snapchat, where, you and your friends swap faces, where it analyzes a bunch of pictures of a celebrity and just use a Google search or whatever. And then, it takes that person's face and switches it out. And, and they've done funny ones where they've taken like Nicolas Cage's face and put it on like Amy Adams' face on like Superman. So like, like a woman, but look, now she has Nicolas Cage's face. And there's been a couple people where like, someone's doing like I've seen pretty cool ones where they take in Jim Carrey and they put his face on Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
And that was a really fucking good one. Now, I was sort of aware of it, but I didn't realize the extent of it, where I was watching a video about deepfakes and they're like much technology, like how the reason the internet is as big as it is and DVDs are as big as they are, their VHS tapes as big as they are, is because of the porn industry. So apparently there are tons and tons of videos online, porno movies. Well, they'll take an actress like a Gal Gadot or Emma Watson or Kaylee Cuoco, the girl who plays Penny on Big Bang Theory, and they'll take an existing porno where let's say you take someone like Gal Gadot. Well, you'll take like a thin girl, probably not that busty, with dark hair, and you use this deep fake technology where you replace that girl's face with Gal Gadot's face, and there's a bunch of pictures of Gal Gadot online, and Wonder Woman, all this shit, and the algorithm figures out the face, figures out where the eyes are supposed to be, where the nose is supposed to be, and superimposes that face. So there's a growing industry of pornos out there where they'll take a celebrity's face, like I said, like an Emma Watson or Gal Gadot or Kaylee Cuoco or, Lady Gaga. I seen one where it was a lesbian scene with like Ivanka Trump and Melania Trump. Just weird shit. And like, we're getting into this day and age where, as the technology gets better, it's going to be damn near seamless, where it's going to, obviously, they have Gal Gadot. If they put it on a body of a girl with giant tits, obviously it's not Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot doesn't have giant tits. But, if you're that kind of a pervert the way I am, you can go online and see, Chloe Grace Moretz and the girl who played Hit Girl, playing, putting a dildo in herself. So, if you're that kind of person, hey, enjoy it. We're living in the future now. So let's wrap this up.
That's what she said.
Unless there's anything you want to contribute. I know we've gone pretty long on this episode.
No, Paul wants to contribute to his bed. So.
Gotcha. So, please visit twostrangersonepodcast.net or at this point, .com. And you can find all things show related. You can find links to our iTunes page. If you have an iPhone, iPad, or iPod, you can download us on iTunes. If you don't have an iPhone, iPad, or iPod, you can download us on the Stitcher app. That's STITCHER, the Stitcher app for Android devices. What I do is I put on Listen Later and available offline, so you don't have to kill your data or your battery. You can download all the podcasts worth listening to, and of course, Paul's other baby, the Tsunami Faithful podcast, is available on the Stitcher app. Let me see. If you want to write to us, I checked the email before the episode. I'm really surprised Oscar hasn't written us. Last episode he was condemning me for pretending to be a journalist while I run around and kiss celebrities' asses. But we got some good interviews, and I got some pretty cool pictures from Comic-Con and pretty cool stories. So I guess I'm still not a journalist, but this is stuff I'm gonna remember when I get to turn as an old man. If you want to write us like Oscar does, you can write us at twostrangersonepodcast@gmail.com. That's twostrangersonepodcast@gmail.com. We want your money. We need your money. But if you can't give us a dime, you can share and like us on Facebook. It takes 2 seconds to share and like our page, share and like this episode. I have started to put things back on eBay, so you can find the links on twostrangersonepodcast.net. You can find the links to my eBay page. Let me see. Of course, you could also go right to the source and get us on SoundCloud. On the SoundCloud app, it's just go on SoundCloud and search for Two Strangers One Podcast. I do make each episode available for download. there's so much shit. Stranger Vlogs. As we're recording this tonight, I'm uploading a new Stranger Vlog. I didn't talk about it this episode because I wanted to save it exclusively for the Stranger Vlog, where I talk about HBO's episode of the first pilot episode of Watchmen, HBO's Watchmen, how it's connected to the Watchmen universe, or how should I say, how it's not connected to the Watchmen universe, and what should we expect to see. And once again, just speculating, but my opinions on that first episode. So there's the most recent. I haven't put it out yet, but that should be my next one coming out soon. And all my other Stranger Vlogs. I have footage from Comic-Con that I'm going to put in a Stranger Vlog. We have interviews we have to put up on Stranger Vlogs. All our stuff. All the links are on our YouTube page. Just search for Two Strangers One Podcast.
I think Chris is running out of gas here, folks.
Yeah, I'm really running out of gas. I know I did a lot of talking this episode. Shit, I'm racking my brain. Is that everything that we need to talk about? I mean, as in...
Oh, yes, it's everything, because I want to go to bed.
And I echo the floor to you, sir.
All right, well, you can find me on Twitter at Paul Pascrillo. You can email me like Oscar seems to find a way to do. Paul Pascrillo at ToonamiFaithful.com. And that's about it. Like I said during the show, if you want to check out V-Lords and the other guy that's on that podcast, his name is Alien Renegade. Their podcast is for the very popular Demon Slayer show. And it's called the Demon Slayer Podcast. That is our new adventure at ToonamiFaithful.com. So go check it out. It's at DSlayer on Twitter. And if you search for it on any platform, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I think it's podcast.google.com is what it is, whatever. And then, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's on every single one of those. So go check it out.
Awesome. Well, we certainly hope you guys enjoyed listening and had as much fun as we did recording. Thank you for listening to Two Strangers One Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Paul.
Don't be a stranger.
Peace. We're out.
Bye. You should be fapping. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
All right, here we go, man. Go ahead. You want to read
Double Jackpot.
What is it?
It is a self-published book by Christopher Cologne.
Chris Cologne? Smells good to me.
But
look at her. That broke that fucking cold little exterior. He's like, hee.
But it is spelled Colon.
Him punny.
But Double Jackpot is a book about a comic book artist, Eric, who is in a loveless relationship with a materialistic
I feel you, Eric.
Lynette.
Oh, fucking. Are you sure I didn't write this? Sounds hauntingly familiar.
He starts cheating on his girlfriend with a more creatively supportive woman, Nadia.
Well, I gotta meet her. Where's the Nadia?
There's your summer girlfriend.
Summer Nadia is Nadia.
Nadia?
Yeah, I think Nadia is spelled with an A.
All right.
Both Lynette and Nadia play the double jackpot, the largest payout in lotto history, much like the recent Powerball. Both girls play his birth date as the winning numbers. Eric is now stuck between two of the country's richest women. Who will he choose? It's not that simple. This is a clever fucking idea, man.
Is.
Look at her, fucking. She's impressed.
I am.
She got some summer reading. Christopher Cologne smells real lovely with an original idea. This is. I've never heard this before.
I haven't either. This is a self-published book, much in the indie spirit as Kev's Clerks.
Oh, you don't even need to name check me. This is just a good idea. You could stand on your own, man. You don't even have to be like, hey, remember Clerks? This is nothing like that. This is way more original than Clerks. This is a good idea, man. Why didn't I think of this?
I need something to read. This book is part of the Comic Books, Heavy Metal, Video Games Trilogy Book 2. Odd I See, A Tale from the Road, coming soon.
Right on, man. It's part of a trilogy. This is the first part.
Way to write, man.
He's seeking a literary agent. Motherfuckers, anybody out there? There ain't no literary agents listening to this show, I assure you, sure. Sure. I assure you, sure. But somebody know a literary agent? Hook a motherfucker up! Chris Cologne come up with an original idea. I should tell Raskin. That's a good fucking idea, to be honest with you. That's a fucking rom-com right there. Megan, get Raskin on the phone. Isn't it possible to get Raskin on the phone? No?
Yeah.
I want to run it past him, man. And if it happens, I get a taste, Chris Cologne. I get a whiff, if you will.
The book could also be ordered on www.lsm.com. LULU.com.
That's Lulu.com.
I understand that. I just wanted to spell it out.
Normally one says it, that spells it. Still, Lulu.com. What is that? Do you know what it is?
I don't know. All right. The book could also be ordered on www.lulu.com. Search for Double Jackpot Christopher Cologne. A paperback version of the book is $15 and a PDF file is only $5.
$5 is
Yeah.
insanely inexpensive. 15's not even that bad for a paperback version.
No.
This is $1 million idea right here. Like a movie about a dude who fucking is stuck between two chicks, both of who play his birthday and win the lottery. Come on! I can see that trailer. Chris Cologne is on to something. Nobody else can smell it but me.
I'll read it.
Thank you. I'm going to make that smelly joke.
I know. You're trying to get me to laugh again.
It worked once. Double Jackpot is a self-published book by Chris Cologne, man. It's the first book in his comic books, heavy metal, video games trilogy. Book 2, Odd I See, A Tale from the Road, should be coming out soon. Get all the information at Chris Cologne, like a motherfucker.
I
and
will
his
totally
book,
read this.
Double Jackpot. I'm serious. I'm going to recommend that to fucking Raskin. How is that not a movie? You know what I'm saying? This could be a sexy movie. You could do an R-rated version. There could be nudie in it, and you could show them fucking both chicks. Maybe a little penetration. Maybe a butthole shot. No butthole, no care.
I would like to formally apologize to Christopher Cologne right now.
No, sex sells. Chris Cologne will appreciate that. He's like, thanks for throwing a few buttholes in there, man.
Don't forget to check out twostrangersonepodcast.net, your one-stop resource for everything show-related. You can find links to subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher. You could also find links to buy my book, Double Jackpot, on twostrangersonepodcast.net.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. And fuck you, I'm out.